military, we are celebrating on this Veterans Day. All right, time now for us to switch gears, go viral. Check out Ezekiel Elliott mimicking his quarterback Dak's movements before the game. Guys had a good laugh about it. But Dak saved the best for last. Later, during the pregame routine, Dak busted out the dance moves. As you can imagine, the internet had a field day with this. The NFL's Twitter account called the move the Dak, and the hashtag Dak dances to anything was trending all night.
Look,
if Dak
hadn't played well, then this would be a punchline. But he was brilliant, and I thought Collinsworth did a really good job explaining that this is what allows him to throw off platform, allows him to generate all the strength from his throw basically through his hips.
Yeah, the torque, right?
It's uncomfortable to look at.
Because rolling out to your left, you got to square your shoulders, and you really don't be able to step into the throw. Hey.
This is going to get incorporated to a bunch of quarterbacks' routines now. If he plays like he does, and he dances like that, or opens his hips like that, everybody will be copycatting.
I'm just going to start off.
Coach, could you do this dance? Could you do
no,
this?
I don't think I could move
do you want to
5
see Coach
yards
do that
way.
Yeah, I do.
I believe
you want to
in
see
you,
Coach
I
open the
believe in you,
hips?
Coach.
And
Yeah, I do.
Coach.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I know.
Guess what's not going to happen?
What?
That.
Well, okay.
That's not going to happen.
Listen, Coach Mangini pretends on television to be this buttoned-up, very staid individual. I mean, Coach got some wild side to him.
Frank the Tank.
I've heard the stories.
I keep it real.
Frank the Tank.
Frank
Just
the
going to go to
Tank.
Home Depot and...
Yeah.
I'll take one. I'll take one. Take one, Coach.
Pretty big weekend planned. It's exciting.
Wow, everyone with the old school reference.
I love it. All right, time now for stories to start your morning. Let's stick with the Cowboys. Despite a great game from Dak Prescott, 28 of 46 for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, Dallas couldn't beat the Vikings. They lose. They dropped to 5-4 on the season. Coach, despite the Cowboys' loss, how impressive was Dak Prescott?
He was really impressive, and I've been hard on Dak, and Dak's played well in a lot of areas, but I thought last night when they couldn't establish anything consistent in the running game, and they were giving a lot of different looks defensively. Minnesota's not an easy team to read from a coverage standpoint, from a pressure standpoint, and I thought he did an outstanding job of deciphering what they were doing and then extending plays and getting the ball to the right people.
Well, you saw him with command of the offense, and we give Ezekiel Elliott all the credit for being the engine for this offense, but Dak was able to carry this team yesterday, and it's because of his football acumen. He was getting in and out of good plays. Harrison Smith was doing a tremendous job in disguising coverages, showing his line of scrimmage, and Dak wasn't buying it. He knew where his tail was, and he was able to get his guys open and also throw them open and find Amari Cooper putting the ball only where he can make plays, you know, especially right here with this toe tap drag, whatever, you know, Nate Burks would call it. Yeah, exactly. And being able to make off-schedule plays and his tremendous pocket presence is impressive.
And you alluded to it, I'll just be very quick here. What Dak's been doing pre-snap the last month, you see the evolution, and including in this game, on a touchdown pass, seeing that the defense had jumped off sides, recognizing might as well take a deep shot, and ends up getting a touchdown out of it. That's the evolution of a quarterback who had one of the best games I've ever seen him play yesterday.
All right, Saints hosting the Falcons as we move on. There were 2 touchdown favorites coming in, but they were losers going out. Drew Brees sacked 6 times as the Falcons, who had won just 1 game all season, got the upset win, 26-9. Nick, you surprised the Saints dropped 1 at home to Atlanta?
You've got to be at least somewhat surprised, especially because they were near 2 touchdown favorites. I'm not surprised that the Falcons finally showed a pulse, because they have been on the short list of biggest underachievers thus far this season. But this is a damaging loss for New Orleans. We talked about how much ground they gained by going 5-0 without Drew Brees. Well, this is worse than losing a Teddy Bridgewater game, because this is a game at home after a bye. You're supposed to win against a team you're incredibly familiar with, and they didn't only lose. I mean, the Falcons were in firm control of this game from essentially the opening 5 minutes.
That's the problem, is when you go 5-0 without your starting quarterback, and then suddenly he comes back, there's this assumption that we were really good. Now we're at a whole nother level, and it's so easy to underestimate the team that you're playing against. And look, Atlanta's much better than they've played, and they're desperate. The coaching staff's desperate. The players don't want to see change. And so they came out and played that way.
And I believe Grady Jarrett came back this game, and his presence was felt, his ability, in the phone booth to give you inside pressure. But the game really pivoted when Marcus Lattimore went out, and he was shutting Julio down. And then the next 3 plays, Julio had 73 yards receiving and was able to open this offense up. So this was a tough loss for them, but you got to give credit to Atlanta for continuing to fight and saying, hey, we want our coach to be here, we can fix it, and we can grow and change next year.
All right, on to the Chiefs now.
Chiefs.
They played Tennessee. Patty Mahomes back under center for KC. He didn't miss a beat. Fourth quarter, Mahomes, watch it, the nasty jump pass to McCole Hardman, who breaks away. Look at that speed.
Changing angles, man.
63-yard touchdown puts the Chiefs up by 9. Mahomes, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns in his return from that dislocated knee. But the Titans would not go away. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill held his own, finds Adam Humphries for the go-ahead touchdown right there. 2-point conversion stretches the lead to 3. Chiefs get one last chance to tie. Harrison Butker from 52 yards out, and it is blocked. And the Chiefs, in a stunner, lose 35-32. They drop to 6-4 on the season.
Come here.
Nick, why did KC lose this game?
Because they did everything you have to do to lose a football game when your quarterback plays perfectly. Patrick Mahomes, even if he wasn't coming off an injury, we would say, wow. Even by his standards, that was a great game. The Titans have been a team that has lived off their defense and their running game. Now, they got a good game out of their quarterback for the first time in a while this year, but he is their backup quarterback. That's not who they've been. And Mahomes was brilliant. And they lost because it's almost as if they were making an effort to. I mean, go down the list. They have a fumble by their running back, Damian Williams. It's returned for a touchdown. Harrison Butker, one of the most reliable kickers in the NFL, misses an extra point that proves important later in the game. The defense, the Chiefs defense, the much maligned Chiefs defense, gets off the field inside of 2 minutes, forces an incomplete pass on 4th and 17. They are getting the ball up 5 on Tennessee's 32-yard line with 1:48 left. And they lose. Because they go 3 and out. Because on 3rd down, they lose yards on a weird Patrick Mahomes rollout instead of trusting him earlier in the drive or running the football there, and they end up setting up where Butker, okay, kick a field goal to go up 8. And they snap the ball too early, and they end up having this nonsense fire drill. And then they let Ryan Tannehill go out there. And look, not even like vintage Ryan Tannehill. Vintage Ryan Tannehill wasn't doing none of this. Ryan Tannehill will go out there and look like, I don't know, vintage Steve McNair, the last great Titans quarterback. And then despite that, because Mahomes is Mahomes, he gets him in field goal range. He had 20 seconds, gets him in field goal range, no problem. And that field goal gets blocked. And so the Chiefs, I still believe in this team. I still think they can beat any team in the NFL in any place. But I also thought last week they weren't going to lose again this season. And that lasted all of 4 days, that prediction. Because they made an effort, it felt like, to lose this football game. And games like this are costly, not only to your morale and confidence, but more importantly, to your place in the standings. They can wave goodbye to the 1 seed now. And the odds of them getting a bye are now predicated on Houston and Baltimore stumbling all over themselves in the final 6 weeks of the season. So it's a brutal loss for Kansas City that was unnecessary. I'm all right. That was unnecessary. It's not like they were thoroughly outplayed.
Right.
They were 97% to win the game when the defense gets the stop inside of 2 minutes, and they end up all of a sudden needing a last-second field goal to try to tie it, and the field goal gets blocked.
Yeah, so this is one of those games that during training camp you show your group to teach them about resilience and the fact that anything is possible. Yeah. It's like there's no chance that Kansas City can lose after they stop them on the 4th and 17. They get the field position that they got. And look, that 3rd down play, I think they were trying to put the ball in their best player's hands, give him a chance to go win the game. He was smart in terms of getting down and eating up the clock. That all was sound, and I get it. But to botch 2 field goals the way that they did and the extra point, it's hard to do, and percentage-wise, that doesn't happen in very many NFL games.
Well, we knew Ryan Tannehill wasn't capable of getting a lot of explosive plays with his arm, but he's very capable with his leg. Now, I go back to Ryan Tannehill because we're in the same division, and he's able to really, people don't remember, he was a receiver in college.
At A&M.
Right, and he was able to be able to come out and really, put a lot of pressure on you. You saw him put his head down and get some of those first downs in the game. But let's just take the gray out. I mean, because we keep dancing around and we keep wanting to give credit to their defense. Their defense is soft. And I told you that it was going to struggle against a team like the Titans that's built with physicality. And when you look down at Derrick Henry, 23 attempts for 188 yards. I saw guys on that defense making business decisions. They didn't want to get on the train tracks when the train was coming through. And that's a problem because you got to be willing to jump on a grenade. And if you get ran over, you get ran over. We used to see this a lot of times with Brandon Jacobs. Guys are real hyped up to hit you in the first quarter, but when those body blows take place and late in games, they wear down. Those angles and putting that arm out and being able to put yourself in harm's way, you don't volunteer for that. So you look at that last drive, they were still staying within the game plan and running the football because they knew that was the best way to get explosive plays, and that's disrespectful to a defense.
And it's such a problem for Kansas City because if teams can control the ball and run the ball consistently, then where does that leave Patrick Mahomes? Exactly where you want him, on the sideline. And at some point, you've got to stop making business decisions because the best business decision you can make is go in, bow up, and try to get something done because in the offseason, Kansas City's going to make a bunch of business decisions on those guys who aren't holding up their end of the bargain right now.
But this was the issue that we talked about with this Chiefs team. They were going to go as far as their defense was going to allow them to go because we have no issues with them on offense and there's such speed and they were going to come out and put up all these points. Are you not concerned about their defense at all?
Well, listen, I think you have to be concerned about the run defense in particular, which was the bugaboo last year, and going into this game this year was bad, and then Derrick Henry runs for $188. But the point I'm making is, despite how great Derrick Henry was, this defense had allowed 20 points and got a stop on 4th and 17 to win. They thought to win the football game. I do wonder if the defense thought, we're done for the day. Because by the time they got back on the field, all of a sudden Ryan Tannehill looks like a quarterback that I've never seen Ryan Tannehill look like. And the players were running wide open. I think the defense maybe understandably thought, okay, we've now done our part of it for Kansas City. It should be noted, by the way, that they were at one point in this game down 4 offensive linemen. Eric Fisher's still out. Dr. Duvernay-Tardif did not play in this football game. No, but it's a notable point.
No excuses.
It's not. No. It's not an excuse. It leads to this point. The most important thing for Kansas City, other than a win, was to see what Patrick Mahomes was going to look like post-dislocated kneecap, and he looked as good as he's ever looked. So if the Chiefs had won this game, but Mahomes looked like, okay, he's going to be a lesser version of himself, then you would almost feel worse than you do this morning because the only hope they have is Mahomes playing at an MVP level and the defense finding a way to get a couple stops. There's no justifying this loss. Patty, as great as he was, that 3rd and 2 could have won the football game. Andy Reid, once again, has some game management questions. The defense, once again, gets run over, and even when you butcher the first field goal, you're up 5 against Tennessee, who has 90 seconds and no timeouts. That should be okay. And I understand they had the ball at the 38-yard line. You got to stop them from going 62 yards in 90 seconds, no timeouts, and they couldn't. All of that is unacceptable for a team that I still believe can win the Super Bowl, even though the last 6 weeks of football, we're running out of evidence to prove it.
I mean, some of the greatest teams I've ever been on, some of the greatest teams that I've ever witnessed you be on that gave us so much difficulty was the teams that understood situational football and not beating themselves. Understanding that the guy's getting a jump, you change the snap count on the field goal. Understanding what you're going to get, in a 2-minute situation, playing that bend, don't break type of defense is just good enough to get you beat. But they gave up explosive plays because they were defending the sideline, which is what you're supposed to do. But you have to understand that they had enough time to make throws through the middle. And that's the type of thing when you talk about not having a defense with, good football acumen, you don't have guys that's able to make a play because they understand the situation, but they understand formations and what that means. Every formation means something.
All right, let's move on. If Patrick Mahomes was good, boy, Lamar Jackson was great. Ravens coming off their big win over the